If you scored low in the CELPIP writing exam and you're trying to understand what happened, or if you are just trying to prevent yourself from scoring low in the next exam, this video will be your lifesaver because we're going to talk about the 5 biggest sins that you cannot afford to commit in the CELPIP writing exam. And the first one, we'll get into it right away, is the task response. This causes even the best students to lose up to 3 points. And this is something we need to focus on. It is not answering the question properly. This is pretty straightforward. I can tell you study and answer the question properly. So this is simple, problem solved. But here's what happens. Let's take an example of CELPIP writing task 2. The question is, should we build option A park, or option B, a school? And what happens is a lot of the times people are gonna write off topic. For example, you chose the school, right? And you say school is great. It even has co-curricular activities and kids love co-curricular activities. They are so engaged in them. They are happy with them. And what you are doing now is talking about kids and their personality types instead of talking about how the school will help in benefiting kids, which is your option. So how you can make that better is shift the focus to the exact question by explaining the why and how. So that is you going into the process. Okay, the school has co-curricular activities, which means there will be opportunities for students to participate in community events or public speaking, which will build their social skills. Hence, the school enables kids to become better leaders for tomorrow and help them in their careers. So now you have given the why and how, the detail behind this benefit, and you're still at the topic, the core of the topic, which is the benefit the school is providing. Don't drift off. It is a common thing that happens. A quick tip and a very effective tip, and this tip is something that people who are high scorers follow. Always make a quick outline before writing to ensure you hit all key points. So if you have the school point, think about the who, what, why, and how. In this case, who is not going to fit, but what is the benefit? Why is it beneficial? How can it be beneficial? Those are the points you want to address. And you want to address every point, every part of it clearly and specifically. And this thing here is not a general sentence. What I mean here is if you have Task 1 writing. Your bullet point, one of them, says find or provide solutions to whatever issue is being discussed. And you provide one solution. That's a problem because the question said provide solutions, which means you should have 2 or more. So if you're not focusing on those exact keywords, you're not specific enough, you lose marks. Don't do that. Now, the second biggest sin is overuse of simple sentences. Simple sentences are things like, I would suggest you do this, full stop. Very small sentences, and you should not have too many of those. You should have some of those. You need a mix of simple and compound sentences, not one or the other. Now, you should understand that these simple sentences only, if you just write all simple, they're going to reduce your marks. For the top marks, use a mixture, and here are some examples for you to understand what a compound or a complex sentence is. Although the service was quick, comma, the food lacked flavor and presentation. There are 2 clauses in the sentence, although this clause and then the other clause. That makes it a complex sentence. Any sentence with 2 or more clauses is a complex sentence. Another one, not only was I disappointed by the wait time, comma, but I also found the staff unhelpful. Now, the not only and but is not only a complex sentence, but it also helps you say a lot of things in a short amount of time, saving your words in writing and saving your time in speaking. And it's very natural. So the best speakers, writers use this. Try to practice writing at least this complex sentence. Super helpful. Next one, had the manager addressed the issue right away, comma, I would have felt more satisfied. So again, had this happened, then this would have happened. It's always like a cause and effect kind of relationship in complex sentences. So use them to your advantage. It makes the descriptions better, gives you a variety and a broad range of sentences. These are things mentioned in the examiner marking criteria, and these things help you really boost your marks for vocab. Now, let's talk about grammar mistakes. How important are those? Because I can make a lot of grammar mistakes if I say, for example, I says that. That's one sentence. Does one grammar mistake equal 1 point reduction? That's really tricky to answer, but what you need to understand is if you make too many grammar mistakes, then you are losing a lot of points. For example, you make 2 to 3 grammar mistakes, fine. Everything else is good, task response, vocab, everything is excellent. You can still score an 11. If you make 5 to 6 grammar mistakes, maybe now you're at a 10. But if you have 20 to 30 grammar mistakes, you're risking getting a 9. So occasional errors are okay, but if it's too repeated, you are at the risk of scoring lower than your target. So quick tip, and again, this sounds like so quick, it's so general. Sean said, proofread before submission, and then you look at this, you listen to this, and you ignore this. I see that happen in my classes all the time. You cannot ignore this. Trust me, this is going to be your lifesaver. This thing that is proofreading, that only takes about 2 minutes at the end, can literally increase your marks by 2 points. I have seen that happen. That's why I force people in our classes to do this. Don't ignore this. You can find a lot of your own errors before the examiner does. So why not use this proofreading time? Please make sure to use that. The fourth big sin you're going to commit in the exam is having a poor flow. That means using no connectors or transitions. Now, writing should guide the reader smoothly from idea to idea. Common sense. It is something that academic writers for articles are an expert in, and people who have really top-notch writing use flows. CELPIP expects you to be that top-notch writer for a top-notch mark. So it's simple to do that. It's not really that hard. Use words or connectors or conjunctions like these. Firstly, in addition, however, therefore, when you're going towards conclusions, as a result, if it's a result of something, you can also say consequently. And on the other hand, when you are talking about a different topic. So an example of that would be the food was undercooked. Moreover, so this is our next point, the waiter never apologized for the delay. So every example I give you in these videos is to relate to the actual situations in the exam. A very common type of question is complaining about your experience at a restaurant. And this is something you can use when you're describing those 2 points. One is undercooked, the other one was this, but I used moreover to smoothen my transition. Now, it's not only important and needed in sentences, it's also important from paragraph to paragraph. So when you go from, let's say, that complaining paragraph to a solutions paragraph, you could say, nevertheless, here are some solutions I would recommend. Nevertheless, on the other hand, in contrast, you move from there to, let's say, in task 2, you're going to your conclusion. You can say overall, in conclusion, to conclude. So having those transitions when you change points, like this was a change of point from the undercooked point to the service, the waiter point, you need a connector. When you go from paragraph to paragraph, you need a connector. You do not need a connector at the start. A lot of people try to say at the intro, if they think it's very important to say to begin with. You can use that, but it's not super important. It's super important in the middle and towards the end. Now, the last big sin is having weak descriptions. No mental picture for the examiner. This is where you say stuff like, again, talking about the bad experience in the restaurant. I had a bad experience, and that's it. That's the whole paragraph. Sometimes it's that extreme. But let's say you're having multiple sentences in that paragraph like these. These are too vague. They don't communicate the mental picture. You have to use your emotions, actions, and setting to really paint a picture. Remember these 3 words, paint a picture. This will help you so much in writing and speaking. You want to describe it as you are visualizing the scene. For example, I was frustrated and hungry. These are your feelings. After waiting 45 minutes, this is a realistic scenario. You're being specific. When the food finally arrived, it was cold and flavorless. Again, describing the looks, the feel, and the taste of it. These are adjectives. An overcooked steak with soggy fries. This is an example of how cold and flavorless it was. It was overcooked and the fries were soggy. This is a beautiful sentence with very good adjectives, descriptions, and where is it giving you marks? In two places. Task response, because you are more descriptive, and vocabulary, because you have a range of different words. You have adjectives. In this case, you don't have adverbs. You could also use adverbs like extremely, completely. And also you have an example here with a complete picture of the scene. Plus, one thing that examiners also like is, look at this little touch, waiting 45 minutes. You can even make up fake names. The server named Steven came and he was very rude to us. Realism also adds to that range and helps with the description. And you want to focus on that because you want to make the examiners feel what you felt. Assume it's a real life writing. Remember, the CELPIP exam is better than other exams because it tests you on real life scenarios. So if you can show that realism, helps you a lot more. Having weak descriptions is the 5th biggest sin, and you want to avoid all these 5 sins in order to secure a high mark in CELPIP writing. Guys, please like, share, and subscribe. Really appreciate it. Until next time.